Hi again, everyone. This is Bob Burg with another episode of Go Giver Influencers Facebook Live. Today's episode is Influential Living. You know, when I first began in sales close to 40 years ago, I soon realized that success in sales was going to be a lot more than just learning the various techniques and strategies and all those things, as important as they all are. I realized it was going to be much more about growing myself as a human being. And so I was advised to read certain books. It's the same books probably that we recommend everyone read today. One of them was this little book called Think and Grow Rich. Now, it's interesting because the front cover is no longer on it. I don't know how many times I read that book that first year and how many times throughout the years. So the elastic and all the, it's a mess. But you know what? I treasure this book. Well, I know a lot about the book Think and Grow Rich, but I'm certainly not an expert on Napoleon Hill. But you know who is? Jeffrey Gitomer is. And we have him here with us today. And I can't wait to share him with you and to share his new book, which is actually 100 years old. Jeffrey Gitomer is the author of 15 best-selling books, including the Sales Bible, the Little Red Book of Selling, the Little Gold Book of Yes Attitude. I have practically all 15 of his books in a special Gitomer section of my library, and I hope you have a bunch of his books too, because they really are gold and red and green and black and all those. But he's a creative, on-the-edge writer and speaker whose expertise on sales, customer loyalty, and personal development is truly world-renowned. Known for presentations, seminars, and keynote addresses that are funny, insightful, in-your-face, real-world, off-the-wall, hard-hitting. He gives his audience information they can take out into the street the minute they leave the session. His podcast, Sell or Die, with co-host Jennifer Gluckau, gets over 100,000 downloads a month. An inductee into the National Speakers Association Hall of Fame, he's known by many of us as the King of Sales. His main website is Gitomer.com. Shannon will post that in the discussion window. And when you go there after the interview, make sure and check out all the resources he offers. Shannon will be posting many of those during the show, and they'll be in the replay notes, his podcast, his blog, the URL where you can see all of his books. While he has another book coming out in January that will explore in more depth on the Go Giver podcast after it's released, it's called The Sales Manifesto, which I can't wait to read. His current book is called Truthful Living. Now, here's the thing that I've got to tell you about this. Remember I said that Napoleon's Hill book, I don't know if I said it, but his book Think and Grow Rich was published in 1937. Well, 20 years before he published that book, he did he was making notes. He actually wrote a course that he was teaching. And we'll find out more from Jeffrey how this actually happened. But the Napoleon Hill Foundation some years ago discovered these and asked Jeffrey to put them together in the form of a book, including Jeffrey's own annotations and suggestions. The result, an absolutely, again, brilliant book, Truthful Living, the First Writings of Napoleon Hill. So I'm going to say that we have Napoleon Hill's co-author, Jeffrey Gitomer, the King of Sales. Welcome, Jeffrey.
Well, thank you, Bob, for setting such low expectations. I totally appreciate your accolades. I thought I was at my own eulogy. But I must tell you that this was not something that I wrote for money. This was something that I wrote as a thank you and for love. I did not change any of Napoleon Hill's words. I kept his 1917 word for word actual writings, but I did annotate for clarity. I wrote a beginning to each chapter and an ending for each chapter as to how to put it into your life. And I've probably given now about 100 interviews about the book. So whatever I was as an expert, I've become more of an expert just understanding what other people wanted to know. Mm-hmm. But when you look at Napoleon Hill and you look at what you've learned from the book and what I've learned from the book over the years, and you see the first lesson is success is up to you, you go, oh, well, that's pretty brand new. And then you look at the chapter 2, which is finish what you start, and you go, that's pretty brand new. These are 100-year-old lessons that are more applicable today because of the distractions that we have in our lives that keep us from our prime objective. Your phone dings more than it rings.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to look at it from a perspective of what are you willing to discard, or at least dedicate yourself to your own personal excellence rather than trying to keep up with everybody's crap by, working your thumbs.
Well, let's talk about old stuff that is relevant, because about 15 or 20 years ago, I don't remember exactly what year, you and I both spoke at a Jim Rohn event, both when
Correct.
you
Yeah, we did.
with us, and Kyle Wilson, the great promoter and great colleague of ours, put it together.
Yep.
And I remember being in a discussion with you, and you told me, we were discussing old books, and you told me basically the only books you read are, and I know you meant that more euphemistically, but you said the people like Albert Hubbard, the people like Orson Swett Martin, the older ones.
Yeah,
And
if
then
it ain't 50 years old, I have a hard time reading it.
Yeah, exactly. And I was speaking with someone a few weeks ago, and I really don't remember who it was, but they told me, I think they were in your library or something, and they saw you had tons of first editions, actually, of many of these books, including Think and Grow Rich. So tell me you're fascinated. Tell us about your fascination with the older guys.
Well, I started out studying in a group of sales guys. We had a 4-hour sales lesson, and these are the early 70s. We went from 8 o'clock in the morning until noon every day for 1 year. And each of the sales training meetings that we had began with a chapter report on one chapter of Think and Grow Rich. Now, the book only has 15 chapters, so we were going through the book literally once a month. And that's how I gained my first expertise. And it's also how I gained my positive attitude. So fast forward 30 years, when I met Don Green, who runs the Napoleon Hill Foundation, I wanted to say thank you. And I said, so do you have a weekly newsletter? And he said, no. I said, well, look, I'll write the Napoleon Hill newsletter called Yesterday and Today. We named it Napoleon Hill Yesterday and Today on one condition. And he said, what's that? I said that you never pay me a dime because I wanted to say thanks. And that was the best way that I knew. So now we have thousands of people who get that email every week, and it grows all the time. But I've published it literally every week for the past 12 years, gratis. And when you do something like that, and then the people at the Napoleon Hill Foundation stumble on the first writings of Napoleon Hill from his course, which was called Truthful Advertising, they offered me the courseware to annotate. I said, okay, I'll do it. But this one's going to have to be where we split the bucks. And it's okay that they're okay with it. I'm okay with it. But here's the deal. He wrote a course called Truthful Advertising, but at the end of each course, and if you'll notice, each one of the chapters is an after the lesson visit with Mr. Hill. He knew that a salesperson needed personal development in order to achieve as a salesperson. And so he wrote all of this personal development, literally gold, in 1917. And that was the forerunner of The Magic Ladder and Think and Grow Rich, which came out, Think and Grow Rich came out 20 years later. But there's stuff that appears in here that appears no place else.
I know. Well, so I want to talk to you about some of this stuff too, and some that does, because you can see where everything he's doing, where it leads eventually, and you were putting it in perspective in some of your notes at the ends and beginning of the chapters.
Yep.
So let me ask you about this first. And you wrote early on in one of your side notes, you wrote, "This book by itself is not life-changing, but your actions combined with the wisdom and challenges of this book will make you a more successful and wealthier person." Now, obviously, he was that guy who said, think and grow rich. The thought,
right.
You've got to have
it
the right thought, but
it actually is, Bob. Think, comma, then grow rich.
Right. Where do people not get, do you find people don't get that part?
They totally don't get it. They're looking for the magic word. And interestingly, the magic key, which he wrote in 1945, is a book all about the magic key, which is the word concentration.
Right.
which is today's word of focus or mindset. And all of a sudden, mindset's a big buzzword. But dude, he's been writing about it for 100 years, and you have overlooked the process because you think of it as an old word. And when he started his, if you look at the first words of Think and Grow Rich, it's thoughts are things. Well, actually, what he's saying is thoughts become things. And you think about something, you think about something, you think about something, and then you take action on it, and it becomes what you think about. Earl Nightingale then said, you become what you think about. He actually said, we become what we think about, but I'm not a kumbaya person. I like to direct at the audience. And that's been said 100 different ways by 100 different people for 100 different years. But thoughts are things are Napoleon Hill's original thinking. And that's where you go back to find out, okay, what are his elements for success? And can I morph them into my elements of success 100 years later? And the answer is these things are more powerful today because of distractions than they were 100 years ago, where there was no distraction. There was no TV, there was no credit card, there was no nothing.
Dr. Hill introduces the reader to the concept of psychology, Jeffrey. This is, again, the early 1900s. So back then, it's kind of considered something where, as he put it, a quote, long-haired professors, only something long-haired professors could unearth. And I think I know what he means by that, but he understands its importance. He wants his students for whom he's written this course to understand it. So please share with us Dr. Hill's conception, his concept of psychology, and explain its importance to the average layperson.
Well, what he's talking about is connecting with other people on a real basis and understanding who they are first, so you can understand how you have to tailor your message second. And he is talking about getting into the mind of the other person, helping the other person. You know, his mantra is provide more service than you're paid for. His mantra is have a chief aim in life. And how do you combine how do I make it compatible with the other person's thinking and their personality? And he has this law a little bit later on in the book called the Law of Harmonious Attraction. If that is not the go-giver philosophy, I don't know what is.
And you know what? I think, thank you. That's very nice of you. That was a point where you made a big point. That was a point where you made a big point, repeating myself, that he took the law of attraction, which has been sort of bandied about now for, I don't know, the last 20 years or so. But with him, it wasn't the law of attraction. As you said, he added a word to that, and that's harmonious.
Exactly.
What's the difference maker, Jeff? Because this was very, very big. This was a big point you made.
He said that the people who are more likely to be attracted to you are people who you are like. And all he said was, I want like-minded people with me. It was the beginning of the mastermind. It was the beginning of how to have customers that are willing to stay with you forever. He wanted to be around people who were like him. And by creating the law of harmonious attraction, which is just totally cool all by itself. I mean, just think about how long the law of attraction has been around. And when you see this law of harmonious attraction, you go, oh, cool. That's pretty simple. That's easy for me to understand. I want to be around people like you, Bob. You're smart. You have street knowledge. You're a salesperson. You're a writer. You're a speaker. You're my cup of tea. And I have only been friends with you now for 20 years. So I'm going to try it for another 20, and then that's it. I'm going to quit. I'm going to give up. But understand that we immediately have something in common because we know what it's what it's like to be a writer on a daily basis. We know what it's like to be lied to by various publishers and other whores in the business. And we have these things in common about going out to speak and having the room being unprepared for sound, or having your computer break in the middle of your talk, or having people in the background making all kinds of noise, or your microphone goes out. We have both had those experiences. We're already brothers, and we haven't spoken a word to one another.
Right. Yeah. What a great point.
Yeah, that's harmonious attraction. We already,
right.
We know there are 1,000 things about you and I that we don't even have to speak about. We already know. And now we can get down to substance. We can talk about what is our philosophy of audience? How do we transfer a message? We can go like 5 levels deep without having to go through the bullshit of how's the weather.
Okay, I want to run another thought by you because this permeated Dr. Hill's book, or his writings. It's yours in his book.
Mm-hmm.
And that is truthfulness. And here's what I mean when I talk about truthfulness. I don't mean honesty, which of course he talked about the importance of honesty.
Yes, he does.
Yeah. But I'm talking truth in terms of understanding, Jeffrey, the fact that successful people tend to deal with truth. They deal in truth. They first look at the world or things or people as they are, not how they wish they were, which doesn't mean they let that stop them.
No, but it's the realism of understanding who the other guy is.
Right. So talk about that for a moment, because Dr. Hill really, it wasn't one chapter on this. It was a whole bunch on this. It was really digging into all sorts of truths of life.
It's a thread that runs through the entire book.
Good.
Let me start it out this way. When I autograph this book to somebody, I sign it. I sign my name, and then underneath of it, I write, "Be truthful to yourself first." Because many people don't understand that the way to get truth is to give truth. Many people don't understand that to get loyalty, you have to give loyalty. Right. Many people don't understand to be trustworthy, you have to give trust in order to get trust. Mm-hmm. That's the whole process. And that's what you write about, and that's what you speak about all the time. You know, if you want people to be nice to you, be nice to them. And that's the challenge that Hill puts out there. And when he starts about being truthful, he says you start with yourself. That honesty has to be a given in a relationship, not a philosophy. And if you start there, you're going to get it from other people. Now, you're not going to get it from everybody. Right. But you'll get it from the right people. Mm-hmm. And those are the people that you want to move forward with. You can smell a liar. Right. Very, very well. I can define them in 2 words: Democrats and Republicans. I think that's the best way to
at least the ones in office. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a dictionary definition of a liar.
That's funny. Lesson 3. We're kind of zigzagging.
Sure. Here. Wherever you want to go.
Lesson 3 was how to think. This is so key. Dr. Hill, as you put it in your insight, this was another one of the Gitomer insights at the beginning of the chapter, tackles the near impossible task, challenging you to think about the way you think. This is so key. Now, here's something he said. 99% of life's miseries and failures are caused by our lack of understanding of the comparatively simple principles through which we think accurately. Break that down for us. Thinking about making sure we're thinking correctly.
Well, let me go back to the foundation, which is the first quote at the beginning of that chapter, where he says, "Thought is the beginning of all wealth and all the mechanical or physical things created by man." And he meant man and woman, but it was early in life.
1917, yeah.
Right. When you begin to think and set aside time to think, it creates ideas. For 25 years, Bob, I have started my day with 5 elements. I read, I write, I prepare, and that causes me to think and create. When you think, you're automatically using your creativity's part of your noggin, wherever that is, and the writing part of your noggin, and the reading creates thoughts in your mind. Like if you're reading with clarity rather than reading for speed, I finished that book in 1 week. I don't really care how long it took me to read. It took me a month to read Atlas Shrugged because it was so damn well written that I had to read it slowly. Yeah. So the challenge that anybody has, and what Hill is talking about, is, first of all, set aside time to think. Give yourself the pleasure of having a space in your home, a chair, a room, a walking path, a coffee shop with your headphones on and music with no words, and let the thoughts flow. Now, what he doesn't say, or what he kind of implies sometimes, is number one, go to sleep having written down all your thoughts. So you don't have to wake up worried about what are you going to do or what's going to happen. Your mind is clear. And go to sleep sober so that when you wake up, you're not in a fog and you don't, quote, need a cup of coffee to get, those people never, ever rise to any level other than mediocrity. So if you write everything down at the end of a day and you go to sleep sober, you're going to wake up ready to think. Literally, you don't need coffee, although you can have coffee if you want to. But I've spent the first hour of my day for 25 years reading, writing, preparing, thinking, creating. That's been my formula. Now, so far, I only have 15 books. I'm going to do it for another 25 years, and then that's it. I'm going to quit. And so I found a formula that works for me. And I have kids. I have a 9-year-old daughter. This morning, I was up at 6:30 with her to get her ready for school. I drove her to school, and then we walked 3 blocks to get to school. That's my morning routine. But what she doesn't know is I'm up an hour before she is doing my routine. That's the way you succeed, the consistency of it. And that's what Hill talks about in every chapter of this book, is the consistency of it. So what he says here is thought without persistent, concentrated bodily action would be useless. So he says, take your thoughts, write them down, commit to them, have the desire to do them, and then frickin' do it.
Well, and one of the things, and let's go back to Atlas Shrugged for a moment.
Okay.
One of the things Ayn Rand was famous for saying, it's probably my second favorite saying of hers, and that's when she would constantly say, check your premises.
Mm-hmm.
And I always, when I think of thinking, I think, isn't that really just such an important part of it?
Sure. How does that impact what it is that I'm about to do? Where am I now as I create these thoughts? Are they feasible? Are they possible? Are they goals, or are they pipe dreams? Are they, are they thoughts, or are they just, things that are going to pop up in the air? What I try to do is I'll put that thought into a tweet. I'll tweet it out, and I'll measure how many people like it and how many people retweet it.
Yeah, see, that's a sign of a pro too, that you're doing that. And I in fact, I want to ask you about that, because there's something that's very relating to that. And I want to ask, because I have 2 more questions I want to ask you about before I let you go, if that's okay.
Okay. Yeah. But I can tell you this, in 10,000 tweets, no one's ever said you're full of shit.
How can you say that to the king of sales? I want to first ask you about your new book before I ask you the last couple of questions.
Sure.
Jeffrey Gitomer's Sales Manifesto. I have an early copy of it. I want to just kiss this book too. I can't wait to read.
It's a sex book.
Yes. And
Charlie Jones.
And tell us about it. I mean, Sales Manifesto. I love it.
I was pissed off at all of the people who now consider themselves experts or gurus in the field of sales without any experience. I would ask every one of those gurus, have you ever made a sales call in New York City and made $1 million sale and walked away? That would be my main question. And have you made multiple $1 million sales and walk away? Have you cold called CEOs of Fortune 500 companies and made the sale? And how did you do it? What was the creative process that went into that? So I wrote the book because there are fundamental principles that exist in sales, not just to have your best year ever. That's a bunch of bullshit. I want people to have their best decade ever, which means take your fundamentals, the foundational elements of your success, and embed them in concrete so that you can move forward with that foundation and start to do what's new, what's now, and what's next. And that's what this book is all about. It is as foundational a book as I've ever written, and as real a book as I've ever written. And it's full of things you can take out into the street and turn into money 1 minute after you read it.
And Shannon will be posting, she probably already has, but Shannon will be posting the link to this. Okay, now the two questions. These are easy ones because this is just you.
Thanks, Bob.
And the first one is, and I'm looking at the tweets you send out to kind of test.
Okay.
Sales, as we know, Jeffrey, is not about us. It is about the prospective
of the yeah,
client.
without a doubt.
Okay. Yeah. With all the people you've trained and all the speaking you've done, would you say that understanding that basic concept is now a known commodity for salespeople, or do most salespeople still think it's about them or about their greatest product or service that's ever been invented?
Unfortunately, they still think it's about them, and predominantly in big companies, because marketing departments think it's all about them. And so a sales guy gets a deck of slides with 26 slides in it, boring the shit out of the people that have to look at it, including the salesperson. When I talk to a big company, I say, look, take the slides you were given by marketing, give them back to marketing and say, make 5 sales with these and report your findings. And that way there's an easier path to a sale. What people don't understand is my trademark benchmarked phrase, which is people don't like to be sold, but they love to buy. And so when you go out to buy a car or buy a suit of clothes or take a vacation, you're not going to get sold a hotel. You're not going to get sold a car. You're not going to get sold a refrigerator. You're going to go to buy one. And this is what salespeople absolutely don't understand. The customer is now smarter than the salesperson. They've researched 10 different companies, and the salesperson only represents one. So I already have a comparison. And when I walk into a car dealership to buy a car, I already have my research. Same way everybody does now, Bob. And the sales guy will come up and go, are you looking to buy a new car today? What brings you in today? Did you want to lease or buy today? Do you have a trade-in today? Do you have a budget today? If it wasn't for the word today, they couldn't even talk. That's number one. And number two, the customer's going to take out a piece of paper with all of his research or all of her research and say, listen, I know what I want and I know how much I want to pay. So if you could take this piece of paper to your daddy and ask him if this is okay, we can finish this in about 5 minutes. And that's the new way.
6 words that you wrote on page 203 says it all. And if people will take these 6 words into their heart, they will become a much better sales professional. And that is cultivate the viewpoint of the customer.
Yeah.
Value is in the eyes of them, not us.
Now, oftentimes you may think you know what that customer wants before you start the conversation.
Right. We don't.
But you better start the conversation with a bunch of questions to solidify that, or you're toast.
Right.
So if I'm going to walk into a car dealership and have to meet with a salesperson, I'm not going to ask that customer if they want to lease or buy today. I'm going to say, how do you use your present car? I'm going to say, if you could have any car on this lot, which one would you take? And let the customer point to a car and I'll say, come on, let's take it for a drive. And throw the guy the keys. Now I'm engaged with that person. And I'm engaged in a way that's going to create approval because he likes me. And if I'm going to create any kind of dialogue with somebody, I want them to like me or they're not going to listen to me at all. Mm-hmm. And that's, you can't be a jackass and be in sales anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank goodness. And something that, and we'll end with this, that he talked about, and I want to get your thoughts on it because I loved your thoughts on it in the book. In several of the lessons, he talked about the attitude of forgiveness, of not living in anger, not holding grudges, not getting even. You can take everything we learn, and if you live with anger, if you constantly feel like a victim, if you're mad at the world. And I went through that for a lot of my life until about, 20, 25 years ago when I made some, big changes in my overall attitude and my overall thought processes. Tell us about that. That was, that was just so big. Don't hold grudges, to forgive, let go.
Well, here's the deal. When you have that negativity, it permeates your thinking. And when you think negatively, you tend to speak negatively. If it wasn't for bad luck, I wouldn't have any luck. Those damn customers, they don't understand. My damn boss, he doesn't understand. And so what I've written about is how negativity blocks positive thinking. And you cannot start out negative and all of a sudden go, yeah, I can forget about that now. I need to think positive. You got to drop negativity from your process. Now, I want everybody who's listening or watching this to think about the time you had an argument with somebody, a vehement argument with somebody where you're screaming or you're yelling or whatever. And 3 or 4 minutes after that argument is over and you're walking down the street or you hang the phone up, you go, damn, I wish I would have told that guy this. The reason that you didn't tell that guy this is because your negativity was blocking your positive thought process. It was blocking your creative process. And so what you're saying and what Hill says and what I'm saying is there is only one way to get yourself to a point where you can respond in a thought-provoking, creative way, and that is think positive to start. You can't be vindictive and win. You can't be non-creative and win. You have to use all of your faculties to point to the positive, because negative actually, unfortunately, is the first impulse. That guy hurt my feelings. That girl hurt my feelings. That guy did me wrong. He didn't say the right thing. He didn't do the right thing. It's all bullshit. What you have to do is look at yourself as, okay, so what? I get to wake up in the morning and be me. That car sales guy has to wake up in the morning and be him. I don't want that guy. I want to be me. I want to love myself, and I want to trust myself. I want to serve other people, and I want to do the right thing. And if I do that, I'm going to win. And I don't have to worry about getting back at somebody. Karma will take care of that. I don't have to worry about other people. Someone will lean over the gate. If there's a pearly gate and you get up there with a St. Peter guy and you were an asshole or a crook, St. Peter's going to lean over and go, so what were you thinking? And that's the whole deal. So doing the right thing and saying the right thing are the preambles for getting to the next level.
Jeffrey Gitomer is author of 15 best-selling books, including The Sales Bible, The Little Red Book of Selling, co-author with Napoleon Hill of the masterful brand new 100-year-old book, Truthful Living. The first. So,
Bob, could I ask for a bigger piece of goodwill than being on the cover with Napoleon Hill?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
I mean, whoever, whatever caused me to take my actions has led to that. And boy, in the words of the Jews, Dayenu.
Right. Yeah, right on. And I'm not sure how to say that, but yes.
Exactly.
Amen.
Exactly.
He has a new book coming out titled Sales Manifesto, which you can pre-order now at Amazon.com. Shannon's posting all of these as we speak. His main website is Gitomer.com. Check out his Sell or Die podcast, co-hosted with the wonderful Jennifer Gluckow. We have one spot left in our upcoming in January in sunny Orlando, our Go Giver Entrepreneurs Academy. One seat, we limit them to 10, as you all know. It's a 2-day event with Kathy and me and 9 other very successful entrepreneurs and salespeople. So if you'd like to get that last seat, make sure you visit GoGiverEntrepreneursAcademy.com. All right. This has been absolutely wonderful. Jeffrey Gitomer, the king of sales. I want to thank you and congratulations again, my brother.
It is a pleasure, Bob. You have yourself a wonderful, wonderful 2019. Not a good day or a good week, a good freaking year.
Thank you. You as well. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. We will see you again next week. I'm
same
Bob
time,
Burg.
same bat time, same Bob station.
Bat time, same bat channel. Absolutely. Hey, make it a great day and make it a fantastic week. So long.